Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to yet another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Omasho. Well, today's edition of International Forum, we're taking a look at the Russian-Ukraine war. We're going deep down into Russia saying no, to the Ukraine grain deal. They stopped it yesterday because they're like saying that, look, no matter what happened for now, this is what is going to happen. They're no longer interested in the deal. And of course, talk about the cluster bomb, talk about, the EU reaction, talk about NATO's reaction, talk about Joe Biden's outburst, some other things. And of course, the ultimate impact this will be having in the global, talk about food security. Yeah, because Russia choose to say no to that deal. Before we talk about all this, let's pick on a story or two making the round globally. Some of the stories making the rounds. Well, let's move straight down to Iran, where Marathi police right now, they've started to resurface. Don't forget about the death of a woman in custody due to the fact that she did not put on a hijab, what they call head scarf. There was scuffle between Marathi police and the woman that led to her death, and Iran was hit by riots, by protests. Many persons came out in the streets saying enough is enough for all these Marathi police in Iran. But as of 2 days ago or yesterday, they resurfaced because right now the government of Iran, they are like saying, look, you just cannot stop us from obeying the tenets of our religion, in the sense that you have to properly dress as a woman, right? Because right now they're saying even if an accident occurs, doesn't mean that we'll just let loose our guard. Marathi police, they are back right now in some cities in Iran, and they are saying that as opposed to what they used to do, using clubs, using how will I put it now, force on a lady or a gentleman that's not properly dressed, they are saying that they are going to charge them to court. Rather than using baton, using excessive force, what they've decided to do is to say, look, if you just can't stick to our religion way of dressing, a religious way of dressing, we'll take you to court. Whatever the court decides, that is what will be your punishment. No longer shopping, no longer pushing, no longer saying you must do this or that because of the death of that woman that led to widespread riot in various cities in Iran. They've learned their lessons. Let's see if some of these women that refuse to put on their hijab or headscarf, we have everything, because right now they are saying it's not a must for them right now to be done in hijab or covering their hair. Let's see how the Marathi police really take care of this new development. You know, when you talk about heat wave, massive heat wave right now, it is cutting across Europe, cutting across the US, and there's prediction that somewhere along the line the temperature may just go beyond 50 degrees. It's going to be the first time to be having such an increase in temperature. Don't forget about Death Valley, Colorado, Pennsylvania, you just name it, because of the heat wave. US isn't spared. Europe, some countries in Europe, they are not spared to the extent that people are like doing everything possible to make sure they keep the body temperature down by dabbing themselves in water. This excessive heat is now leading to what is known as forest fires in some climes. Go to Australia, any little spark from a cigarette head or anything will just lead to a widespread fire. People have been warned about it. You have to please watch what you're doing per time because of this pressure built around some cities due to climatic conditions. Take a look at it. 50 degrees centigrade. I mean, it's no joke. It's no joke. But for some cities, they've been able to go beyond 36 and 37, but 50, come on, that is like the first time in a long time these cities are experiencing this kind of heat wave occasioned by climatic change. So if you're traveling to that city, you have to stick to the tenets of what you hear, what you eat, and how much you go out. It is expedient that you follow the regulations so that you will not find yourself wanting health-wise. Some have lost their life due to the excessive heat occasioned by the heat wave. Moving straight down to South Korea, Pennsylvania, where mudslide caused the death of Yes, tens of percent because of a natural disaster occasioned also by the heat wave that made some countries to experience excessive flooding, excessive rainfall to the extent that in South Korea, a tunnel just collapsed. In Pennsylvania also, the same thing happened and life were lost. This is what I call natural disaster, Mother Nature reacting to the way men are like, treating or handling nature with levity. Come on. Global warming is real. Do one or two things to make sure that you obey the simple rules and regulations, stick to the agreement reached by some country in the climate change meeting to make sure that our planet is suitable for us to live in. On one hand, excessive heat wave on the other hand, we'll get to see excessive flooding that gave rise to mudslide that made some persons lose their life, family losing their life because of this imbalance in nature. Natural disasters, God, well, will definitely help us to pass through this particular phase. Our heart goes out to the persons and the countries affected by this turbulence occasioned by Mother Nature. Okay. Right now, we'll go on a break. When we return, we'll go to introduce our guest. I will zoom into the topic for today. It's all about Russia and, of course, Ukraine, a grain deal that Russia choose to say no to. How do you think it's going to affect the world? How do you think it's going to turn the tide of the war? How do you think Ukraine, even Europe, Asia, America, Africa will be able to withstand this big no to the agreement between Russia and Ukraine in terms of the grain deal? Matters are rising in the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. If you just joined us, this is International Forum. Today is all about the Russia-Ukraine war. Matters are rising, talking about the Ukraine grain deal that Russia chose to stop due to some circumstances that Russia made known to the world and to NATO, to the EU, or whoever cares to listen. They gave good reasons why they choose to say no, to discontinue with the deal. But what do you think would be the far-reaching implication in all of this? With me here in the studio, I have a legal practitioner, political affairs commentator. Join me to welcome Barrister Douglas Omogui. Barrister, welcome to International Forum.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your coming.
The pleasure is all mine.
All right. We're expecting the likes of Cyril Okungbowa, political analyst, political affairs commentator, even environmentalist also. When it comes, he's going to join us in the studio to express his thoughts and opinion on this particular thought. And of course, via Zoom, Professor Ralph Ehigato will join us to tell us more about his feelings on what is happening, especially when you talk about the grain deal. Well, Douglas, I believe I've been following the trend since last year, since the war broke between Russia and Ukraine, and so many things have been happening. In course of the war, due to the fact that the world is suffering, because, Ukraine is the largest producer of sunflower, you just name it, and some other grains. And due to the war, they couldn't supply the world. But they cut a deal with Russia, and Russia allowing them to go out there to ship grains to the world. Right now, Russia is upset. That means the world, they are pissed by some things that, according to them, is not following the tenets of the agreement. I mean, from what you can really envisage from this particular setup, let's take a look at the reaction of Russia. Are they justified by saying no to the Ukraine grain deal?
As a matter of fact, every country on earth will try as much as possible to protect their interest, be it economical interest, political interest, or military interest, as the case may be. So I feel Russia, as a state and as a very recognized powerhouse as far as world relations are concerned, they are trying as much as possible to protect their interest. And what they are opining is that, fine, they control the seaports that are instrumental, or the seaports that are instrumental for the distribution of these grains from Ukraine. But they are saying that the Allied powers or NATO powers or European Union or countries, as the case may be, they have not met their own part of the bargain. They are opining that their own exports as gas and crude oil, they have not tried as much as possible to participate in this trade or trade of this nature. So it's all about interest. And I wouldn't blame Russia for discontinuing this Black Sea grain initiative. They are trying as much as possible to protect their interest and doing all things within their power to ensure that their own interest or their own perspective is being obliged to. So that is essentially what is happening.
But still, before the commencement of that deal that was shattered by Russia, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, some persons accused Russia of manipulating the world to bend to its own will. Because they are saying you're blocking that particular strait, talking about the Black Sea, preventing Ukraine from exporting grains to the world. This is an act of sabotage, no matter the reason.
Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, also subscribed to this line of thought in a statement yesterday, saying that no nation on earth will try as much as possible to prevent other nations of the world of benefiting from their exports or their food exports or grains or wheat, as the case may be. So it's a very dicey situation. And if we want to look at this Black Sea grain initiative, we will come to realize that Russia's biggest ally is the biggest beneficiary of this Black Sea grain initiative. From the statistics as provided by United Nations, China consumes or imports over 25% of the grains that are exported by Ukraine. So it's something that is very diplomatically deceiving, if I will use that term, because Russia needs China as far as this escapades of theirs in Ukraine is concerned. And it happens that China is the biggest beneficiary of Ukraine exports. But we should not jettison the fact that the Russia Federation has their own interests to protect, has their own interests to adhere to, or which they want other nations, other consequential nations involved as far as their relations are concerned, have their own interests protected and guaranteed. And if we want to look at this issue, Russia should try as much as possible to enact or display wit and tact in solving or in trying as much as possible to protect their interests as far as this matter is concerned.
You can take a look at that clip. You get to see 20 million tons of grains trapped. 20 million tons that have got into the world via the Black Sea.
Yes.
I mean, you talked about China being a great beneficiary to the export of Ukraine. We talk about the grains and the rest of them. But some are saying that only aggravated Russia to pull out of this deal because Ukraine has attacked the Crimea Bridge. Is that enough to really pull out of the deal, or there are some other things you are not seeing beyond this?
They pulled out of the deal before the attack on the Crimea Bridge. If I will make my own assertion, because
they cited that as one of the reasons.
I don't think
attack
so.
on Russia.
It happened before the attack on the Crimea Bridge. If we opine as far as this matter is concerned, I would say that it's actually a retaliative response from Ukraine against Russia. That is the reason why they attacked the Crimea Bridge, because the Crimea Bridge is the only access Russia has to the Crimea, which they annexed in 2014. So this is a very technical issue, very, very technical issue. And if all the stakeholders or all the actors that are involved in this saga, they don't exercise or display tact and if I would say tact and wits, they will all meet a consequential result as far as this issue is concerned.
But some are saying that Russia doesn't have anything to lose in all of this. They have
do.
nothing to lose.
As they said, as they opined, they said European Union or European countries who are actually supporting Ukraine as far as this Russia-Ukraine war is concerned, they are not meeting up to their own bargain of the deal which was struck at in 2022, last year. That is their opinion. And we cannot really ascertain if actually what Russia is saying is actually a matter of fact. But that is their opinion. That is the reason why they said they pulled out from the deal.
Now, if you take a look at the plan out of the deal, right, don't forget that the first time they did this, the world was crying.
Yeah.
The world suffered.
True.
Now, do you see the world suffering right now?
Due to the
this
discontinuation of
Yes.
Russia in this Black Sea Grain Initiative, over 40 million persons will resort to adverse hunger or poverty, as the case may be. So it's a deal that is consequential to all parties involved. Even Russia, that is even discontinuing from this deal. Because the likes of Egypt, Spain, Yemen, and other host countries, they are actually benefiting from this deal. So discontinuing this deal will seriously affect commerce and the economical situation the world finds itself.
I understand that the world should brace up for inflation. Don't forget that
Definitely,
the first country that was really hit, as in worst season was split up over the African continent, was the UK.
True.
When the price of bread skyrocketed, and so many other things also went up because of the blockade of the Black Sea.
See, it will actually affect every nation that is involved. Even we that is in Nigeria, we also get a token of this adverse decision that the Russian Federation has made. Because when the prices of wheat and grains have skyrocketed, it will affect what commerce, it will affect what trade, or the dealings between nations, as the case may be. So this is a very consequential action made by the Russian Federation.
Now, these may just turn the tide of war that Russia is waging against Ukraine. Do you think it's going to favor Russia in that quest to dominate the eastern part of Ukraine vis-a-vis the Donbass region?
Well, when you want to observe the antecedents of war, the antics of war, you come to realize that wars that have been fought in the past have elements of using hunger, using poverty to achieve their aim. Even the Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970 has elements of this trait. So depriving your enemy or depriving your adversary with the use of a blockade of food importation or exportation, or blocking them from actually achieving greater revenue or huge revenue in order to fund their escapade or their war, as the case may be, it will be very, very detrimental. It's something that is really detrimental and will affect the finances or the capital that will be needed for them to fund the war. So it's a move by the Russian Federation to actually cripple Ukraine in fighting this particular war. And if this discontinuation by Russia, as far as the Black Sea Grain Initiative is concerned, persists, it will be catastrophic, not only to Ukraine, but to the allies as well, and even neutral states as Nigeria.
All right. Now, you just don't want to go for a break. When we return, we'll definitely continue with this discussion. It's all about the Russia-Ukraine war. Matters are rising with Delta on Russia pulling out of the Ukraine grain deal. We're talking about the adverse effect. Do you think Ukraine might just yield to Russia's demand? Disband your military, leave that region, Donbass region, the eastern part of Ukraine, be part of modern Russia, and there will be peace. What do you think about that? Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. If you just joined us, this is the International Forum. We're still expecting Cyril Kumbo, but here with us in the studio is a legal practitioner, Barrister Douglas Omogui. We're trying to connect to Zoom to see if Prof will be able to get across to us from wherever he is around the world to share his thoughts and, of course, his opinion on this particular discussion. Now, taking a look at the war. The war is still raging on. All right, we have the defensive, well, I say offensive, defensive put forward by the Ukrainian armies, and of course the cluster bomb also given to them by the U.S. despite the negative, I want to put out now, disapproval also by the UK Prime Minister saying, look, cluster bomb is not the answer. And of course, Russia responded by saying they have more than enough cluster bomb in their arsenal. I mean, how do you think all this will pan out?
It's not heading to the right direction, as a matter of fact, because cluster bombs is one of the weapons or the weaponry that was banned by the Geneva Convention. These are weapons of mass destruction, and the effect of this kind of weapon is alarming, very, very alarming. And if we want to talk about cluster bombs, Russia actually, as a matter of fact, have a huge stockpile of this cluster bomb, and if diplomacy or the use of diplomacy is not extended or is not reached as far as this matter is concerned, this war will be very, very chaotic.
Chaotic for who? For Russia, for Ukrainians,
parties, because as truth be said, Ukraine is being supported by the United States and her allies. So we cannot jettison the fact that the allied powers, they don't have a huge stockpile of the cluster bombs and other weapons of mass destruction. Same as Russia. Russia is a war country. Before the dissolution of the Soviet Union, they have immensely weapons that can even wipe out the face of the earth, just as United States as well. So this matter is a very delicate matter. And if all the actors, all the political actors or international actors, as the case may be, that are involved in this issue do not exercise tact and diplomacy, this issue will not only deteriorate, it will be very chaotic for other nations of the world.
Now, since this rule of not using certain weapons in warfare, talking about modern warfare, has been breached by the United States of America, do you think it's going to be use whatever you can to destroy or annihilate your enemy in this war?
Please, it should not get to that use.
Because right now, don't forget that
because we have the nuclear weapon. We have the nuclear weapon that we should really be fighting about. We should really, really be scared about. Yeah. When it comes to the nuclear warfare, there is no victor, there is no vanquish. So my hope, my prayer is that it should not extend to the result that, okay, all nations of the world, or sorry, the active nations that are partaking in this war should not exercise the use of weapons as they please. Because if it gets to that extent, the use of nuclear weapon will be exercised. And it's something that nobody even wished for. If you heard some of the conversations made by Donald Trump, he said the nuclear weapon that is available, that is at reach at the moment, it's 50 times greater than the one that they used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we know the catastrophic events that occurred in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and how these two great cities in Japan were leveled, or they were made to dust. So it's something that we should, or in fact, everybody should try as much as possible to dissuade these actors, as far as this Russia-Ukraine war is concerned, to desist from using weapons that are not at par with the nuclear weapon, but have the propensity of causing so much mayhem or havoc, as the case may be.
Mayhem or havoc, as the case may be, because right now it's like every country that involved that law indirectly begin to pitch tent with either Russia or Ukraine, depends on the relationship with both countries. Now, if you take a look at the situation right now, some pundits have the opinion that as the war rages, Ukraine will be more indebted to US, NATO, and our allies, that all these weapons being supplied to Ukraine is not free. How true is that assertion?
War isn't free. Whether you like it or not, there are some persons that are benefiting greatly, immensely from war. It may be that the sufferers might be those persons inhabiting as far as the war zone is concerned. But take it or leave it, huge interest or huge concern is being expended to the art of warfare. And there are some persons that are benefiting or having great gains as far as war is concerned. So whether we like it or not, Ukraine is indebted to the United States and the NATO forces. And the reason why the NATO forces, and most especially the United States, is concerned about Ukraine is due to the economic advantages that will be accrued to the NATO or the Allied powers if Ukraine is a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Take, for instance, the wheat production or the grain production by Ukraine in as far as commerce or diplomatic trade between European Union or European nations and Ukraine is concerned, because they have a very large deposit of wheat production in their country. Take, for instance, the gas, the natural gas found in Ukraine. In fact, the biggest power plant in Europe is situated in Ukraine.
But some are saying it's Russia, but Ukraine is like, that the country to spread to the world, even to Europe. So it's like, they have this thing in common. Please continue with your analysis.
Yes. The biggest power plant in Europe is in Ukraine. And Ukraine has huge deposits of uranium and other materials that will be instrumental, pivotal towards the creation or the development of nuclear weapons. So Ukraine is a very symbolic country. And also the landmass as well. Outside Russia, Ukraine has the second largest landmass in the world. No, sorry, in Europe. In Europe. So Ukraine is a very symbolic country. If Ukraine can be annexed by either party, either the Allied powers or NATO, as the case may be, or Russia, it will serve their interests greatly.
So it's all about interest.
All about interest.
Now, you talked about people selling weapons, profiting from the war. Can one say that that's the reason why the war hasn't come to an end? Because they've not made enough profit, or they're just in a tight situation whereby they just can't take side? Which is it?
This is a very dicey question. When it comes to warfare,
yes,
many factors are involved. Either the natural gas that is found in that country, either that country is so rich to the extent that they can fund the war by through buying of weaponry or arsenals from other armed states. And we can also consider the fact that the geographical or demographical location. Of that country. And also the political structure as well, the economic factor. There are so many factors. So if you put all these factors into consideration, you will know that war is necessary to some persons that are actually benefiting from that war. So this war, I don't think it will end anytime soon. Because if you look at the Russia-Afghan war of the 80s, the late 80s and early 90s, it's also it has similar characteristics as it is now in the Russia-Ukraine war. Because the United States actually supported the Taliban, or the Mujahideen as it was known, to stage a war against the Russia Federation, or the USSR as it then was. So it has similar traits. And if we don't study this straight, we cannot come to the conclusion that parties or different persons or different states are actually having interest or benefiting from that particular war or this war, as the case may be. So we should consider these factors before reaching our conclusion.
Now, considering the factors which you've done briefly, how do you think all this will pan out? Do you think that more countries, vis-a-vis the U.S., NATO, they're going to be gaining more by selling weapons to Ukrainians, or is it look for a way or means to stop the war? Is it about the business in war?
NATO wants Ukraine. Russia wants Ukraine. Other party emerging victor in this warfare, in this war, as the case may be, will benefit greatly from it. And we should also consider the fact that some states, some actors are actually benefiting from the war based on this longevity. Because if the war is not being sustained, countries as United States will not have a reason to sell weapons of mass destruction or weaponry or arsenals or military arsenals to Ukraine or to support them, as the case may be. So these are factors that we need to consider. If we have considered these factors, we will know why this war is still persisting.
Oh, now let's go back again to the 20 million tons of grains that are trapped at the Black Sea. Do you see NATO taking their forces to the Black Sea to dismantle the hegemony of the Russian forces, to allow this grain to be, delivered to the world, or it is going to be a face-off, stand still, so to speak? Because some companies say that they can go through the Black Sea as long as they have what they call protection. They have their own kind of own protection to pass through, coming forth and going forth, for them to have the distribution unhindered. But how do you feel NATO will come into this?
The truth is, the Black Sea is currently occupied by the Russian forces. If NATO wants to intrude, if there will be an intrusion from NATO, they will have to face stiff resistance from the Russian forces. And that matter will be very, very delicate. If a matter of that nature suffices, it will be very, very delicate. Because the Russian Federation would not want a situation whereby they lose control of the Black Sea. They would not. So if NATO or the Allied forces or the European Union, as the case may be, they are trying as much as possible to liberate that 20 million tons of grain for food distribution and for this grain to meet their necessary target, it will lead to a very strong resistance, a very stiff resistance from the Russian forces.
Do you think it will lead to an all-out war between Russia and NATO
it might lead to that.
Control of that strait?
Yes, it might lead to that, and it will be very messy. It will be very, very messy, because whether I like it or not, the Allied forces or the NATO forces, as the case may be, they are weighing their options, just as the Russian Federation as well, as they also weighing their options as well. They know that an outright war or an outright battle in the Black Sea will be very, very messy, and the effect of that war or that battle or the contest of the Black Sea will be very, very catastrophic, not only to the actors that are involved, but the neutral states as well. So one has to be very mindful about a situation of this nature.
So how do you think this can be resolved? Because the impasse is still there. Russia is saying a big no. They gave reasons. They talked about the sanctions imposed on them by U.S. and allies, and of course some other things that has to do with the war. How do you think this can be resolved? Because take it or leave it, the war will bleed.
True. What I feel is that diplomacy is not yet dead. They can still explore the option of diplomacy, because whether you like it or not, this
someone said diplomacy was kicked off the window, or through the window, so to speak, when Joe Biden sanctioned the supply of cluster weapons to Ukraine.
Aside that,
that was one of the reasons why Russia is breathing fire.
Aside
because of this particular reason.
Aside that, the world need to listen to Russia. If Russia is saying that their own part, as in the Allied forces or the Allied powers, their own part of the bargain has not been met. I think the world needs, or the United Nations or other parties that facilitated this deal last year, they should put this into serious cognizance. I believe Turkey and European Union and some other actors, they were the ones that actually facilitated brokered this deal. So I feel they should return back to the drawing board and see how they can magnify or amplify their own part of the bargain in trying as much as possible to protect the interests of Russia as far as this deal is concerned.
But still, the president of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, talked about going to see Putin next month. He said they're going to meet next, but he's going to talk to him and he might just change his mind. Should the world wait till next month for Tayyip Erdogan to go talk to Putin for him to say yes to the deal? Do you think Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, have the magic wand to make Peter change his mind? Because he said, look, these are the conditions. You guys renege on yours, so we just can't continue with ours. How do you think this man can broker peace? So that the world will not stop? Because for what to conjure well, I said, he said, look, the poorer countries will be the hard-hit countries because they will suffer the more because of this onslaught by Russia saying no to the Ukraine grain deal. And as he pronounced, talking about the president of Russia, that is how it is going to be. From what you rightly said also, it's a delicate situation. NATO just can't attack the Black Sea. Don't forget that Russia lost a ship in that Black Sea. They will not let it happen again. It may just be an all-out war. So how can it really go around this?
I feel Turkey president have the necessary prowess to broker a deal between Russia and the Allied forces. If we want to put serious consideration into Turkey's escapades or Turkey's tact in trying to resolve this issue, we mustn't jettison the fact that Turkey is a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but they don't subscribe to their policies. And as a matter of fact, they are even the founding father of NATO in the 50s. They were one of the founding fathers. But it's very surprising that Erdogan is not actually subscribing to the policies of NATO as far as Ukraine is concerned. They are trying as much as possible to be neutral and trying as much as possible to make sure that all parties are at peace as far as this issue is concerned. So they have been playing a very key role in this matter. And what is expected of Turkey is that they should not relent. They should keep on performing or displaying these good antecedents or these good traits that they have expended thus far. And if we want to look at this matter critically, we will come to the conclusion that Turkey is the only country that Russia might listen to as far as FRACA is concerned.
What made you think so?
Because they have been doing it. This Black Sea Grain Initiative is their doing. They are the mastermind of this grain initiative. They were the ones that brought lingering peace as far as the grain distribution from Ukraine to other parts of the world is concerned. So Putin has that propensity of listening to Erdogan. And I don't think at this particular point in time, this good relationship that they share will deteriorate. If there will be any form of solution as far as this matter is concerned, it has to come from Turkey. And what I am saying is that Turkey should not relent. They should try as much as possible to keep on brokering peace between the two parties and see how this matter can be resolved. If I want to still have this as an addendum, it's very surprising that the South American countries are not even subscribing to the policies being made by NATO. They are standing neutral.
Don't forget that Russia is a member of the BRICS.
Of the BRICS, but this has nothing to do with BRICS. I'm talking about a coalition of
South American
countries. South American countries.
Yes.
They are standing neutral. And when it comes to the Americas, it's considered that Uncle Sam, which happens to be United States, is a big canopy that covers these countries into their fold. So it's really surprising that these South American countries, they are standing neutral, or they are on the position of neutrality as far as this issue is concerned.
Yes,
so you should know that this matter is a very delicate matter. And if tact and diplomacy is not used to the fullest, it can really deteriorate into a catastrophic situation.
Are you not saying that the world should wait till next month? Because you said I'll meet Putin next month.
If there is a way that they can resolve this dispute before the next month's meeting between Erdogan and Putin, fine. But from my own analysis and observation, I feel that it's only Erdogan that can actually give Putin what he really wants. Because he has been doing it, and he can still do it, and he will still do it.
But now, do you see America, their allies, and of course the world lifting some of the sanctions placed on Russian goods, Russian personnel, for them to say, okay, fine, let's continue with the Ukraine grain deal? Or is it going to be you have to give something to get something? And if that is the case, what should be given by Russia? Or even by NATO, with the U.S. to, SEMA, will I say, bring down the tension that is there right now in the Black Sea that has to do with this grain deal?
I feel that the Allied states or NATO countries should try as much as possible to meet up to their own part of the bargain, because Russia controls the Black Sea and all the seaports that are consequential towards the distribution of grains from Ukraine. And so far so good. They have been prudent enough to meet up to their own part of the bargain. But they are saying, they are opining, they are adumbrating that the Allied forces, they are not actually meeting up to their own side of the bargain as well. So I feel that the only way this matter can be resolved is if we can actually determine if the United Nations and other principal bodies that are involved in this issue can be able to ascertain if truly Russia has been deprived of their own exports. If that can be ascertained, then there can be a roundtable discussion in seeing how they can review or make necessary alterations to the existing deal that was discontinued by the Russian Federation.
All right, thank you so much, Douglas. Let's see how all this will pan out, because it's still a big no from the Russian side. They're saying enough is enough. They want to pull out from this particular deal. They gave good reasons. Now, do you see the world right now going through another phase of inflation within the time that Turkey and of course Russia will meet in order to talk about this deal, or things will just be normal for a while?
I don't think things will be normal, because as of yesterday, prices of food stock actually skyrocketed in the world market, in the world food market. So it will be very, 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 very catastrophic before this issue can be resolved. And if we want to look at it critically, several nations of the world are actually benefiting from this Black Sea Grain Initiative. Take, for instance, Spain, which happens to be the second beneficiary of this Black Sea Grain Initiative, just after China, and also the likes of Egypt, and also the likes of Yemen. And we should not jettison the fact that Russia is also opining that this Black Sea Grain Initiative is not actually beneficial to the poorest of nations. That is actually the high-income nations that are getting benefiting from it, which ought not to be so. If you want to solve the issue of poverty, the issue of hunger in the world, it has nothing to do with the advanced nations of the world.
So now, can one do this that Russia is fighting for the poor nations of the world?
No, I don't think they are protecting the poorest of nations.
Because we stated
the
this
interest
fact
of the
also
poorest
that
of
this is
nations.
what is
I don't think
going
so.
on.
I don't think so, but it's a fact. Because countries as Yemen, that who ought to be the biggest beneficiary of this Black Sea Grain Initiative, they are way below the pecking order as the beneficiaries from this initiative, this grain initiative. The persons that are, the states that are actually benefiting greatly, immensely from it, is actually Russia's biggest ally, which is China. We have the likes of Spain, we have the likes of Egypt, though Egypt is a poor nation, but at least the level of poverty or the level of hunger in Egypt is not as consequential to that of Yemen or that of Sudan, who are actually benefiting from this Black Sea Grain Initiative. So this is a very delicate matter. If the poorest of nations are not benefiting from it, then the aim is defeated, because NATO, European Union, United Nations, and even United States, all of them, they are opining on the fact that the poorest of nations ought to benefit from this Black Sea Grain Initiative, which happens to be not the case. So I believe if there will be a future roundtable discussion as far as this matter is concerned, they should put great cognizance to countries that are poor or countries with high level of hunger and penury, and seeing how these countries can be inculcated into this deal to boost or to ameliorate the level of hunger. As far as
should Nigeria be worried also?
We are not a benefactor. We are not a beneficiary, I mean. But
the government has said that we want to increase the price of bread.
Yes. But indirectly, one way or the other, Nigeria will be affected.
Yeah.
And also other neutral states as well.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, the world should brace up. The world should really brace up. You've heard him, a wonderful analysis. He gave his own side of his own story, talking about what he feels or what he felt. That is going down right now. Should the world wait till next month for everyone to talk to Putin? Or do you think things can be done the way Russians are, like, opining that it should be done for there to be stability? Or should the world just brace up because it's going to come hitting wham and the world will shake? Don't forget what happened to UK is going on right now. High price of food commodity is in the increase. If you go to other countries globally, even the US also, they are still being affected by this same blockade occasioned by the pulling out of Russia from the grain deal. How do you think the world will survive? Barrister, thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine.
I appreciate a wonderful analysis.
Thank
you so much for coming. We'll do it again next week, Tuesday, God willing, on the same channel. Bye for now.